back to the Diagon Podcast, tabletop role-playing game podcast about balding men with OCD. I'm your game master, Josiah, and with me as always is my player,
William.
Where we last left off, we skipped over the secret of what Winston's dinner is. Subscribe now to our Patreon that doesn't exist. You can find out that secret. But for now, we're skipping to the next morning.
In the future, we'll release a weekly update to his habits.
We'll release a meal plan so that you too can live the Winston Davitsen lifestyle. At any rate, next morning, get up. I presume you have your breakfast.
Yeah, I'm going to assume this time he probably ate breakfast at home. He did not go out, so he has his great-grandma's...
He did that the first time too.
Did he? I thought he ate...
He ate, then he went to go get coffee.
Okay, then that's exactly what he does this time. He gets out his great-grandma's frying pan and cracks 2 eggs.
Does he have a cast iron, and has he fucked up the seasoning on it?
He did one time, and then he learned. And then he developed a story about a cook that got haunted, and so research.
Haunted by his great-grandmother's spirit for fucking up the seasoning.
Yeah, it was called Revenge of the Spice.
When did Revenge of the Sith come out?
That was like 2006, I think.
Oh, man. Because it would have been really funny if he had released it like as a tie-in thing. He's one step ahead, which unfortunately didn't pay out. All right. So he has his routine breakfast, and then he's gonna, I think we said he was gonna meet Tony Howard for coffee in the morning, so
Yep.
Nothing stopping you there.
Yeah, he packs his briefcase like how he did last time, except he makes sure to have a notepad and a pen. When he's working on stuff on his own, he uses digital when possible, but when he's dealing with people, he prefers analog. It just feels more natural. He imagines that's how Victor Smith does things as well.
I like to think he has like a really positive image of Victor Smith in his head, and that if he ever meets Victor Smith, he's just going to be so disappointed.
Yeah, you never meet your heroes.
Especially if your heroes are California tabloid journalists.
The real question is was he a fan of Victor Smith prior to him discovering the real thing?
I feel like he must have been. All right, so you head out to John's again. I assume you get there a little early. I feel like Winston's show up 5 minutes early kind of guy.
Yeah, and that way he can get in the right mood with the coffee and all that.
Yeah. All right, so you get there, get your usual coffee, take a seat where you can... When you're interviewing someone, do you do an outside seating or an inside seating?
Inside, unless it's like really loud, but otherwise he'd prefer inside. That way, if there's a recording involved, it's as clean as it can be.
Yeah, it's not noisy at all. So Tony shows up a little bit later. He gets a coffee. He also drinks his black, and he gets a muffin.
Before we go into this, how's the guy that serves the coffee?
About the same as yesterday.
Still bandaged up?
Yeah, like I said, it's not like a big bandage, it's just like a band-aid, so.
Right.
As far as you know, it's not a major wound or anything, so. Anyways, so Tony Howard shows up. He's kind of tall, lean, reasonably good looking. He's got kind of messy brown hair. You talk to him from time to time. He's not really a big fan of your work, but at the same time, you do editing when he does bigger writing projects and vice versa. So you guys have a working professional relationship.
But not friendly enough to be like buddies.
Yeah, it's kind of like you guys don't dislike each other, but you don't like each other. You're just there.
Yeah, and it's a small town, so you don't get a big pool of people to work with.
Exactly. And really, you're kind of the big fish in this pond because, you actually have published books, whereas he's, writing for a small newspaper. So.
Right. Did they know each other prior to Tony working for the paper?
I would say probably, but not very well. Tony is a bit younger than Winston. I'm guessing that Winston probably gets called in to, talk to the students at the local high school that are interested in writing, that sort of thing. And he gets paid a little bit for that. So you probably would have talked to him there. It wouldn't surprise me if you got him his job at the newspaper.
That sounds like a lot more than just...
Like, not in like a big way, but just like, I can imagine the newspaper guy, the guy running it, being like, hey, which of these kids should we pull for an internship?
I see.
And you're like, he seems like a competent writer from what they showed me.
It's kind of weird to think of this character as Winston Davitsen as not the shit, but still respected in his field that happens.
You're basically the most important writer in this not very large town.
Right.
If the steel mills were still running, you would probably be less important because it'd be more likely that other authors would still be here. But as it is, you're kind of the guy that stuck around. So anyways, he sits down. He goes, so you wanted to talk about the playground story?
Yeah, Tony, I just wanted to pick your brain on some stuff. And, let's just share a coffee like we always do and see how this goes.
He nods, sort of leans back. And goes, all right, fire away.
Okay, so then I tell him about how yesterday while I was at the park doing my routine, as you well know me, I got to do this and then I do that. And then so on and so forth. I saw this kid and he was with his parents playing the playground, and, I just saw this weird shimmer thing kind of happen. And then it like hit the kid, and then the kid started bleeding. And it's kind of weird. I don't know how to explain it, but because of the story that you wrote, I figured maybe there's some connection to this.
So he sort of nods. You think maybe some kind of insect, something like that?
That's what I'd have to imagine. I mean, it seems, I know when I say it, it doesn't sound quite like, like how, but there's something there. And the detective in me definitely feels like there's something there.
All right, well, I guess I'll just give you what I have heard. I just picked up the scraps of the story. I was talking to some people I know in town hall, and they were saying they get a lot of complaints recently about how all these kids are coming back with more scrapes than usual from the playground that they can't explain. So,
is it always in the same spot or is it random?
We didn't get that kind of detail, honestly. Lots of parents going, what's going on? Why is this happening? It's supposed to be safe, yada yada.
Do we have a list of the kids?
I sure don't. That kind of stuff's, I don't know if classified is the word, but definitely not the kind of thing you can just ask for.
I just wonder if there's some kind of connection between the kids, or if it's just happenstance because of the park, potentially.
Well, you could always go around asking, but, from what you said, it doesn't sound like there's anything special about that kid. Just wrong place, wrong time.
Yeah, so that's pretty much all you think there is to this, potentially? What does your instincts tell you?
Before, I was assuming that, there's they got those metal slides. I figured there was something jutting up on that and that hadn't been fixed. That was kind of my guess. Based on what you're saying, maybe there's some sort of hornet nest, something like that. Doesn't sound too serious. It's kids getting scrapes.
Right.
That's what kids do.
Yeah.
Only weird part is the thing that got me to write the story was all of the parents said that their kids couldn't tell them how they got that scrape.
Right. Which when I originally read your story, what popped in my mind was, well, they're kids. That happens a lot. You just don't. You're so invested in playing, you don't realize, oh, I just hurt myself. But it's still odd. There's definitely kids that would notice, oh, this bug thing hit me, or I got hurt on the slide. There'd be at least one.
Exactly, yeah. It just seemed weird that suddenly there's all these complaints about it. There's always a bunch of parents complaining about something that's normal, not usually something you have to write about, but just all of a sudden, all of them having the same complaint.
Right.
And where there's smoke, there's fire. So I was hoping it would develop into some kind of scandal, but it doesn't seem to be going anywhere.
As far as scandals, were you thinking the slides needed to be fixed or something like that?
I was hoping for mayors siphoning funds from maintenance to do something or other. Typical stuff. Scandals are how you make your career.
Right. Well, I appreciate you coming out here and talking with me about this. I'll keep you informed if I end up finding anything just from, you never know.
Yeah. Keep me in the loop, as it were. You have my number.
Yep. And that open invitation for the D&D game is still open.
I'm sure it'll stay open.
Well, I gotta try.
See you around, Winston.
See you, Tony.
He sort of lazily walks out. He's never someone who moves fast. All right, so you've had that short meeting with your acquaintance, your associate, not friend.
Right.
What's next on your plan?
Well, I'm gonna go ahead and pull out my laptop and enjoy the rest of my morning. I guess he'd probably start updating any going theories about this and thinking about how he could potentially turn this, even if nothing comes of this and it turns out kids were just accidentally hurting himself. He's like, I feel a good story here that I can turn into a different book. So he's going to start working on that.
You're going for an R.L. Stein grade story where it's like a kid's horror story.
Yeah. He's always thinking of his next book. So he starts doing that and finishes his coffee. Nothing else happens at the coffee shop?
Nothing really at the coffee shop.
Okay. If nothing else happens, then he's going to go ahead and shorten his breakfast routine and head over to the park, hoping to get there before there's really any kids out there playing.
All right. Did we ever say what day it was yesterday?
I don't think we ever did. I was assuming maybe it was a Monday, but
Given the time we had for the kids playing, I'll say that it was probably like a Friday. I think that makes sense. So it's Saturday now.
so then more than likely there will be people at this park.
Yeah, might not be crazy busy just because it can be pretty hot this time of day, but still. And I'd say in general, this park will have people there because it's kind of like a playground in a wider park. So
Before I leave the coffee shop, I want to go on wow, my brain just completely forgot his name. The reporter.
Victor Smith, his message board.
He wants to go on the message board to see if there's anything there, and he'd like to make his own post as a weird thing that he's cited.
All right, so you're just going to kind of post about what you've seen so far.
Yeah.
See if anybody else wants to pipe in and say like, I know that. That's the Tasmanian child scraper.
That's those leprechauns.
Exactly. Everyone knows that's what leprechauns do. You get to the end of the rainbow and it goes, and scrapes you slightly.
Taste the rainbow.
All right, you go ahead and make your post. Probably take a while before that gets any responses. You don't see any posts from anyone else about it. There are possibly other people you might know in town that you might talk to about this kind of stuff, whether or not you talk to them about this specific thing. So I'll just run some ideas of people you might know, and you can tell me if you would know them. There will be a priest, so I would assume that you would know them just because it's handy for your books. I don't know if Winston is practicing anything, but
I would imagine if he does or doesn't, it doesn't matter. It's a small town. Like, if a lot of people know him, then I assume the priest would know him too.
I wouldn't say a lot of people know him necessarily. I'd say, like I said, pretty much the people that I've said know you are related to what you do.
Okay. Yeah, he knows the priest because despite the fact he keeps on forgetting when it's Sunday and to go to church because he's so busy with writing, he has parents. He grew up in this town, so he was involved in these communities begrudgingly when he was younger, so they know each other.
The other person you might know that I didn't bring up before, there's a high school ghost hunter.
Oh.
So whether or not that's the type of person.
A high school age ghost hunter?
Yes. So she would be second year high school. Up to you. She's the sort of has the EMF reader and camcorder type ghost hunter.
Is she a fan of my books?
She's probably read some of them, but she's not as big of a reader as she is watches the corny TV shows and stuff.
Is she interested in Victor Smith?
Yes.
Okay. That's how we would know each other. Prior to the way how things are these days, there are boards for, different cities under Victor Smith's thing. So that's how I know any locals that would be into this kind of stuff. And she happens to be on that.
All right. So her name's Tasha. So whether or not you hang out with her very often, you at least know of her. And the priest's name is Marcus.
And the girl's name was, what was it again?
Tasha. And feel free to tell me if there's anyone else, any other sorts of people that you think you would know.
Are my parents still alive?
I'm gonna guess probably not because of how old you are, and they would have grown up in a time with worse healthcare.
Right.
Just in terms of technology. But they could be. It's up to you.
Let's roll for it.
Yeah, just roll your fudge dice and see if we get an overall positive or overall negative on that.
Got an average, +1.
+1. So how about just one of them is around?
Okay, one of them's around. Let me roll again to see what their health is like. So I'm thinking good, then they're doing their own thing. Bad, they're in a nursing home. Okay, so I got a poor. So my dad is in a nursing home.
How's his mind, do you think?
It's a -1, so his mind is fine. It's just he needs help getting around, and I'm so bad at keeping a schedule that I couldn't possibly be responsible for another adult. So right now it's more assistance than anything else.
All right, so you know him. If you decide you want to bounce ideas off of him or something.
Be really funny if he was also a writer.
I get the feeling that Winston's dad is not a writer. He's probably like a old steel worker or something who is so disappointed that his son is this space case.
But with age, he's gotten okay with it. Back when
he's so tired, he's just like, yeah, this is my life. This is what I went through Vietnam for, was to raise this little shit.
He tried to pull me away from Star Wars and it just never worked.
You went through the whole satanic panic and everything.
I was about to say that, the whole D&D's devil worshipping, he was part of that.
I'm trying to think when that happened. I feel like you would have already been an adult and he still would have had to deal with it because you're so out there.
Yeah,
that you probably still were living with him.
Yeah, this character would have been growing up in the 60s and a teen in the 70s. So
yeah, I guess I think your dad served in Nam, so you probably didn't see him a lot until you were like a teenager.
Okay.
Which might explain why you're like that. Fatherless behavior, as they say.
Okay. So, do we want to add anybody else? I mean, I think 3 is pretty good for...
I mean, we can always add more later.
Yeah.
Because, this is a town you've lived in most of your life.
I guess, does he know any law enforcement? I mean, I feel like we've kind of alluded to him getting in trouble.
I feel like you would probably have someone that you were friends with, just because Winston seems like the person who's responsible enough that if, while he's doing his routine or investigating something, if he notices someone actually breaking the law, he's going to report it.
Okay.
I feel like, tell me if I'm wrong, but I feel like Winston doesn't care about, like, if someone tried to bribe him or something, he would just be like, I don't need that. Really, I'm good. I'm just going to go ahead and report you.
Right.
So I feel like you have like a sort of like a jaded cop that probably doesn't like talk to you or anything, but who will take your calls, basically.
Like he's been unofficially assigned to handle my ramblings.
More like you've turned up enough stuff for them that they were annoyed about, that they're like, all right, this person is kind of annoying, but I'm going to deal with them so that I can solve these problems that nobody else is willing to work with me on.
And he has a suspicion that there might be characters based off of him, but he's too afraid to ask because he doesn't want to know that.
Yeah, so I do have a cop ready, so that is Detective Maria.
Okay.
The other reason probably that she's willing to work with you is I feel like Winston doesn't give a shit about like, oh, that's a woman, she can't be a police officer. You're just like, she has a gun, good enough for me.
And there might be a character in one of the books that's a female cop, so she's like definitely like this guy's talking to everybody and taking copious notes and turning them into fictional characters.
I wonder if you guys meet up and then she does something to get like to distract you, and then she just takes your notebook and flips through it really fast. Just to find out what everyone's doing and then hands it back without you noticing. Or better yet, Winston just pretends to not notice.
He's actually flattered.
Yeah. That'd be the funniest relationship ever. Where it's like just two people pretending to not notice things, not out of any romantic undertones at all. It's just neither of them is going to admit that they're actually getting useful things out of the other.
Could you imagine being like friendly with the guy that does write books like this? Because it's like everything you say could end up being turned into some...
Exactly.
It's like dating Taylor Swift. You know, if you do that, there's going to be a song. There's no privacy with that. It's just all going to be out there one way or another. It's like him with the books in this sense.
This really begs the question of who the hell did he get to do a D&D group with him?
That'll be for another episode.
Who's willing to put up with him to that extent?
You know, it's hard to find a good DM, and clearly he has enough time to...
He tests out all his book ideas on them.
That's why he's as successful as he is.
Never an unoriginal campaign with him. Not necessarily good, but always original.
He would have thrived in the modern era of podcasting.
All right, so we've got a good list of people that extra contacts you have now. So given that, what's your move?
So it's Saturday, right?
Saturday, approaching lunchtime.
Okay, so am I able to essentially page any of these guys and set up some kind of meeting with them or just meet up with them?
You probably can't page
Tasha.
Yeah, you probably can't page Tasha. You probably can't page Marcus, but Marcus will be near the church. You can always find Marcus. You can definitely get in contact with the detective pretty easily.
And my dad, I can just call the nursing home.
Yeah, or just go there.
Yeah, let's see here.
You could email Tasha.
Okay. Yeah, she's hip with the times. She's totally on IM or whatever.
AIM.
Yeah. Okay, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and send a message to Tasha, an email, and just say, hey, Tasha, I got this mystery thing that I kind of want to pick your brain about, potentially. It might be some kind of weird bug, some kind of weird ghost ghost, something along those lines. I write an email to Tasha basically saying there's something that I'd like to pick your brain about. Might be ghost related, could be bug related. Just seems a little weird, and it seems to be targeting the youth. So get back to me when you get a chance. And I think I'm going to go ahead and head over to my dad's nursing home and grab something to eat there and talk with him.
All right. This might be the most substantial lunch you've had in a while.
You know, that's why my dad is totally fine with me showing up, because he knows that he can make me eat. And
every time he sees you, it's just like,
gotta give this boy a sandwich.
You're killing your mother.
He knows she's
Sorry,
dead.
You killed your mother. Now you're killing me. Do we want to just cut it with you rolling up to the nursing home? We can just have a short episode.
If you want to end it here, we can.
Off the record, what are you wanting to get out of talking to your dad?
I was thinking just to bounce off the idea of what I saw and then see what he might suggest as far as maybe talking to the detective or going to the priest, but I have no evidence. So
yeah, I'll say, why don't we do something to set up you showing up and then cut it so that I can prepare what your father's like.
Okay.
So you get in your car. What kind of car do you drive? I feel like you've got a shitter of a car. Are you driving a Pinto? Like you just didn't, somehow that's the one thing you never heard about is the Pinto explodes if you hit it in the back.
Yeah.
Either that or you've got to be driving like a old VW Bug. One of the two.
Let's do a VW Bug. I feel like that quirkiness kind of fits him.
How rusted is it? Or is it just that you keep layering more paint on it? So you've got like 6 different colors of paint just layered on top of each other over time?
My dad used to maintain it, so it's actually in fairly good condition, but I'm not maintaining it, so it's just dirty.
It's slowly dying.
So, but he insists on getting out of the nursing home every so often and trying to make me understand how to work the machine.
Every time you go there, he sees it through the window and he's like, okay, here's what you've got going on that you need to fix. And he writes it down and makes you take it to a shop.
Did you change the oil? Did you rotate the tires?
All right. It's not a bad car for someone who's not going to maintain it because you don't have to add coolant or anything.
Yeah.
All right. So you drive your Bug. Is there anything in particular you take with you, or you think all the stuff you already said you have is good enough?
Yeah, I don't think he'd take anything extra because he's just in kind of writing mode.
Doesn't bring his dad anything special.
I mean, he's bringing himself. Isn't that special enough?
I feel like that's exactly the thought process of Winston Davitsen. What's the retirement home called? It's got to be a bad name. It's got to be like Sunny Shades or something.
You know what? Let's just do that. Let's Sunny Shades.
Sunny Shades. Yeah, it is the stereotypical retirement home. You've got old people playing chess and stuff like that. You roll up in your VW Bug. I feel like you probably go there often enough that everyone there recognizes you, even if they don't know who you are specifically.
I tried to start a D&D campaign with them also.
They know you're Mr. Davison's kid.
Yeah.
And that's where we'll close it.
Awesome. In the park. He just started communicating with his colleagues in town, and he's planning on meeting his father. Let's see what he can do on the next episode. We at the Die Again Podcast love hearing your thoughts, so drop your comments wherever you're tuning in from. Also, don't forget to follow us on X, Threads, and Blue Sky. Just search for Die Again Podcast, all one word. See ya. So I'm like, let me double check that.